And we're rolling. Josh Brolin. Yo, welcome to my podcast, SUPcast with Neil P. My name is Neil P. And I'm a dude, and I am currently residing in Michigan now. I moved across the country, and my life has gotten so much better. Dudes, dudettes, who's ever listening to this shit, I apologize. I was in a bad place for quite some time. And right now I'm recording the intro to this their podcast because I'm trying to make sure that I don't devour this pizza. In Michigan, there's a pizza chain called Jets. I purchased a Hawaiian pizza. Yeah, pineapple on pizza. Pineapple, ham, and bacon. You check that out. Yeah, and I'm going to literally devour the fuck out of this. But I figure I just recorded my first podcast back in almost 3 months. I was having a really hard time with my life. The pandemic happened and the band stopped being active. And then I realized that, that band thing was one of the only things that was giving me that dopamine. It was one of the only things that was making me feel like my life was worth a poo-poo. So I was flipping out a little bit. And, but then I just told myself, now's the time to pivot. Just get into making internet content. And so I got on this fucking weird grind where I was just literally sitting in front of my computer every single day, whether I was streaming or making videos or making a podcast. And it got to the point where even my physical health started to wane because of it. Like I was streaming so much and I was singing so much that I had a gnarly fucking hemorrhoid. And, also I started to judge and base my self-worth on whether or not people were tuning in and watching my stupid videos. And if you pivot, if you go from doing one thing, like let's say you're an accountant and then you decide, hey, I'm going to be a rock climber. There's going to be a learning curve, So this whole last year has been pretty much a learning curve. I went from being band guy to content creator and really beat myself up, man. Didn't give myself a whole lot of credit or love or patience in the process. And it just got to a point where my mental health started to deteriorate. And on top of it, I was in a house with my girlfriend. It was just she and I for the better part of a year. We took COVID very seriously, so we stayed put. We didn't fucking hang out with anyone, so it was just us. And things got bad. Things got fucking bad with my mental health. I started not caring about being alive. And I've been there before, and it's been a minute, but to actually see it happen and to see my relationship start to deteriorate and to see my depression just take over. And I was angry and I felt stuck and I was really, my only connection to the outside world was the internet. So I was looking outside of me and just seeing California was fucking on fire. I was really stressed out about money. And there was all the things that were happening around the election and the social things that were happening, and social change. And it just got to the point where I started to really take on, and I started to really ingest all of these bad things that were happening just outside my door instead of concentrating on what was right in front of me. And that's a loving, mature, supportive relationship is right in front of me. And the fact of the matter is I might not have millions of followers, but the ones I do, they're very dedicated to what I do, and they provide me with an ability to fucking survive. That's something to be grateful for. So many things to be grateful for. My mother's still alive, and yet trying to outweigh this depression with gratitude just wasn't working. You can only get up and look in the mirror and be like, oh, I'm so grateful for this and so grateful for that. But what if that doesn't work? What if the gratitude doesn't change your mood? What if you were just clinically depressed? And so, it reached a fever pitch. It got to a point where my girlfriend and I started arguing a whole lot. And then it started getting to the point where the arguments were getting increasingly just intense, to the point where we're both screaming at each other, throwing water bottles. And it got to the point where I was behaving in a way where I had to look at what I was doing and be like, okay, get help or lose my relationship. And So I decided that I was going to get help, and I saw a psychiatrist, and I got a diagnosis for PTSD, which I did a video on my channel. There is a video where I watch a video about the 14 signs that you have PTSD, and I had like 13 out of 14 of them. And I remember I made that video. It's on the YouTube channel, and I cried. And I literally cried because it's like, okay, this is what I have. And, you know, I just turned 40, man. I'm a dude that just turned 40 and is just now figuring out what's wrong with me, figuring out that I have trauma, an unchecked trauma, and mental issues that definitely stem from this trauma. And it all stems from my childhood. And I'm depressed and I'm anxious because of it. I'm hypervigilant because of it. I can't sleep very well because of it. I have a very low self-image because of it. I'm very hard on myself because of it. I'm sad because of it. I'm angry because of it. So, yeah, I went back on the pills. I remember, like, I have a Downtown Brown song called Pills, where I'm just like, I do not need your fucking pills. I do not need your fucking pills. I do not need your fucking pills. And I say it over and over again. That was me kind of lying to myself. It's not that I need the pills. It's just that they fucking help, man. So I'm on 10 milligrams of Lexapro. I take 10 milligrams of Lexapro a day. And according to Allie, my partner, my girlfriend of over 3 years now, and we just moved across the country together, and we have a house now, not just a fucking apartment. We have a fucking house. I have a room. And it's not right next to the bathroom where she can just unleash death into the toilet, and I have to listen to it. I have a fucking room. Tones of home. I have a Jet's Pizza just waiting for me. You know? I'm 25 minutes away from my mother. I'm medicated. I'm in therapy. So it's time to fucking get back to work. I just got vaccinated. I got that Johnson & Johnson vax. So I went to this clinic in Detroit, and I was like, yo, I need more of these drugs because I'm on psych meds. I'm on Lexapro now. And I ran out of the drugs in the clinic in Long Beach where I got them from. They wouldn't refill them. So I went down to Detroit, and I'm like, yo, give me some of these drugs. And my friend, Ashley, recommended this place to me that's a free clinic. And it's like one of the oldest operating free clinics in the country. And I went down there, and I said, I need drugs. And they're like, okay. And then I'm just standing there, and they're like, do you want a vaccine too? And I'm like, yes. And then I went down there with Allie because we only have one car. We're sharing a car right now. And I'm like, you want to get this vaccine? And I asked the lady, can she get the vaccine? And she's like, yeah, she can get the vaccine. So we're just sitting there. We got vaccinated. And that was yesterday. And now I feel kind of queasy, and my back hurts, and all of my muscles hurt. My leg muscles, my arm muscles, my wrists. My wrists are killing me. The tendons in my hands, they hurt like a motherfucker, man. But I think it's going to go away. I'm a little sweaty. Definitely just did nothing today. Slept because I feel like shit. I have a headache. It's pushing my eyeballs through the back of my skull outwards. It's not a whole lot of fun. But we got fucking vaccinated, so it's time. The time has come. I fixed the problems. I was living in California, and I was just hoping and praying that the people I knew out there would expose me to new opportunities. I got a couple good opportunities. They were good. And most of it was just me feeling like I wasn't important to the people out there. But that's the nature of the beast out there. Everyone is hustling so hard to get their own. They good intentions. They'll tell you. They'll be like, yeah, I can help you do this. I can help you do that. Is it going to happen? I don't know. It might. It might not. But the California thing is over. And it's on to the next chapter of Detroit. And this is my home. I spent 30 years here growing up. I'm 25 minutes away from my mom. I have a nephew. I have a brother here. I have friends. I have like true friends. Like people that don't give a fuck about the business side of things. We're just homies. You know, friends that you can confide in, and they won't blab your business to the fucking world or try to fucking hurt or tarnish your reputation. Real friends, you know? And relationships that I've cultivated for decades. Like not just a decade, like decades. I've known people out here for 20 plus years. I've known some people out here my whole fucking life. So it's good to be home. I got this motherfucking pizza. And I think it's about time to devour. This is the intro to this SUPcast. And I sit down and I have a very, very candid, open discussion about the death of a parent. And with my friend Kate, My friend Kate is a streamer and an artist and a musician and a clothing designer. She's a Renaissance person. And she's also on the album Grabbleton's Beach. When the album Grabbleton's Beach, my band Downtown Brown, when the album Grabbleton's Beach first starts, the title track, Grabbleton's Beach, she plays the ukulele and sings on it. So you may have heard her voice before. And then you hear her voice at the end of the album as well. So you may have heard this person's voice before. And now you're going to hear our conversation about what it's like to lose a parent, and especially when that relationship was fractured while the parent was alive. So it gets heavy. It's definitely real. It's definitely at times kind of depressing, but it's a conversation between two friends. And this is the first podcast in 3 months, first SUPcast in like 3 months. So I'm glad to get back on the motherfucking horse. And without further ado, here's my conversation. Oh, and while I got you here, I have a Patreon. Now, I have a YouTube channel, 1,500 subscribers, but I don't make any money off of that. So if you like this show and if you like what I do, the best way for me to survive off of my art is through Patreon. And what Patreon essentially is you pay a flat fee a month, and depending on what fee that is, you get some perks. But you do get access to a patron-only feed where I kind of take you behind the scenes and show you like what I'm doing. But for the most part, it's just like a subscription service that kind of makes sure I have money to put food in me. And then I just will keep creating a shitload of content that hopefully you enjoy. So consider patreon.com/Neil P. And also I'm on TikTok, and it's a lot of fun. So follow me on there at Neil P. And let's get into the fucking conversation. That's the plug. Consider supporting me on Patreon because 2021 has just started, but I just got fucking vaccinated, and I'm going to go fucking hard this year. I'm going to be making shitloads of content, and I'm getting the band back together, and I'm home, and I'm medicated, and I feel good, and my relationship is strong. We live together. She wants to get married. We'll talk about that at another time. But I'm going to devour this pizza. Here's my conversation with my friend, Kate Nyx. We'll see you soon. Okay, I can say I'm here with my old friend, Kate Nyx, who currently resides in Philadelphia still.
No, we just moved to Lancaster.
Where's that?
Lancaster is it's in the middle of Pennsylvania. It's like Amish country, rural. It's not even suburban. I call it sub-rural because it's like suburban communities interspersed with farms. So yeah, we moved to a house in Lancaster.
How long has it been?
We moved here a month ago, not even.
Okay, so how are you adapting to change?
Well, I mean, the whole situation surrounding the move has been bizarre. As I told you a little bit before, my mother passed recently, and part of the reason I live in this house is because my brother bought it for her and she's dead. So there's no one to live in it. So now I'm living in it. I'm also about like 10 minutes from where I grew up. So though I'm not living where I grew up, I'm living tangential to where I grew up. So I'm seeing a bunch of places I haven't seen in like 15 years, 20 years, etc. It's been weird.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a turducken of childhood trauma that I face pretty much every day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, coming back to Michigan for me, I just came from, I was in the LA area for 5 years, and now I'm back in the Detroit area. So you're using a lot of good vocabulary baseball words. What was the first? They both started with a T. What was the first one?
A turducken of childhood trauma.
Okay, define that.
Okay, a turducken is when you cook a turkey with a chicken inside of it, with a duck inside of that.
Okay, so it's literally a turkey with a duck.
With a turkey with it's a turkey with a duck with a chicken in it. whatever way the size works. It's basically
turducken.
like
Okay,
it's a turducken.
Okay, it's making sense to me now.
Yeah. So I'm just in this like triple baked layered dumpling experience of like simultaneously dealing with like the grief of the death of my narcissistic mother from the global pandemic that's currently happening, whilst also like I just moved to the suburbs from the city. My husband moved with me and he's never lived anywhere but the city. So like seeing horses and farms and Amish and stuff is all crazy new to him. And I haven't driven a car for like 3 years. Now I drive a car like once a week. It's been basically everything about my life, aside from the fact that like I'm married and a musician and a maker, has changed.
Oh, yeah. Well, my condolences.
Wild.
My condolences about your mother. I had a very fractured relationship with my father, so I think you and I have a similar.
It sure is a place to be, because you're like there. Well, what am I even mourning? Like, what am I mourning? My mom, or am I mourning what I wanted the relationship with my mom to become if we could both be healthier people? And I think it's a combination of both, mostly the second one.
Yeah, mostly the second one, because I found myself at my father's funeral, and I remembered I had a 16-year-old cousin that died in the early 2000s, and I was bawling, weeping, I was beside myself. And when my father died, I was just kind of sitting there hearing his old golf buddies tell stories about, he was kind of an asshole. And his brother was like, yeah, he's kind of an angry guy. And so like when the people at your funeral, the people giving eulogies are pretty much like, yeah, we called him the curmudgeon at work. He pretty much hated his life,
Yeah. Because my mom died of the pandemic, during the pandemic, we weren't able to have a funeral. Wasn't even an option. Like the only option that would have happened would have been if I personally maintained the emotional energy to put on entire funeral Zoom performance by myself. Like that would have been the funeral.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not going to do that. So no funeral. Sorry to the two people that care. We lived in different states. All of her friends knew an entirely different person than I did, because like they only knew her for the past 10, 12 years, living in a different state with just her husband with no kids. Like it was just like two separate people, like completely different experiences. And because mine was not positive, I got like, I was the receiving end of some grieving anger, because I was not like, she was an angel. God took her to the sky place because of her heavenliness. And I was like, she was a person. She wasn't a great mom, and I'm pretty fucked up from it. So like, that's still happening whether or not she's dead.
Yeah, and through therapy, I started going to therapy when my dad died, and that's when it all really came out. It's like, holy shit, everything about me and my addiction to outside validation and all my eating issues and all of my addiction issues, that all stems from I just wanted my daddy to love me and to tell me he was proud of me.
Oh yeah, for sure. 100%. For me, it was I just want my mom to be stable. So like I would not be affected by things. Like I would, like when my parents got divorced, I was fine. And like I would just I was not a problem child, because I never made trouble, except for when the school was finally like, hey, you don't have grades because you never do work. And I was like, I don't know what's happening. Guess I got to do a bunch of homework overnight or whatever. But my mom just like wasn't a parent. She let me do whatever I wanted all the time. And she tried really hard to like be my best friend and not really protect me or teach me or guide me in any way. Yeah. And as I became an adult, it just became painfully obvious that I had matured past her in pretty much every way. Wow. And it made it very hard for us to interact, because she could tell and I could tell that I was the adult now, and I had always played the role of the adult, whether or not it was appropriate. And then she fucking died, man. She like realized I didn't need to be parented anymore, and finally passed away after like trying to She almost died multiple times over the past decade, like overdose. She overdosed at my wedding reception. It was like a whole like the almost death of my mom was something I had to deal with so many times. So like the fact that it's actually happened is weirder than like the preparing for and accepting the death. Cause I've been kind of waiting for it it's like this weird, like when she started to recover from COVID in the hospital, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to hear about the fact she had COVID at Christmas time for the rest of my fucking life. Like I'm going to hear. And then 4 days later they were like, she's dead. And I was like, oh, okay. Different plan.
Yeah. And
fucking plan.
Ooh. Yeah, it's heavy. We just dove right in heavy, like right off the bat.
Neil Bog, listen, I was thinking about this earlier today. I was just like, you are one of the people, because like when I was in Detroit trying to be an artist or whatever the fuck I was doing, I basically kind of treated Detroit like art college. Like Theater Bazaar was my art school. Like instead of going to art school, I went and hung out with
weirdos and the clowns.
And clowns. Yeah. And you know what? Honestly, like I don't regret it. Like I'm not like, oh man, boo-hoo. I hung out in the circus for several years. But I was thinking that if I am correct, which I think I am, as far as our age differences, when you met me, you were my age now.
I am 40. I just turned 40. So
yeah, I just turned 30.
Okay, so there's a 10-year difference there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you met me when I was like 18, 19.
You were a baby.
Yeah. And I was just thinking like, man, you treated me with so much respect for like a young female artist, especially considering the other situations I was in. Like, I'm just, I'm really grateful for the, just credibility that you allowed me to have by just letting me goof off with you in a way that like men don't really let women. Like I remember the Grabbleton's Beach. I've been thinking about this because I played, I think, I'm almost positive I was a guest at the 10-year DTB show.
Yeah, I have photos of that somewhere.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I played on Grabbleton's Beach with you on stage. I'm almost positive.
Absolutely. I'm pretty sure I have photos of that. That was the thing, yes.
I either dressed as a hula girl or as a kindergarten teacher. I don't remember which one.
There was two instances. There was one where you were a kindergarten teacher, and I think that was at the shelter, and then there was a show at Smalls where you were the hula girl.
Yeah.
And you just had fun with it. And that's the type of vibe that we always tried to promote, was like, just be yourself, be weird, and we love you, and let's just have a good time and dance around. And so I think you fit in perfectly to that, because you're weird, we're all weird, we're just being weird together. And yeah. So that makes me feel good, because man, especially in the last 10 years, like I feel like I've really evolved as a human being.
I think you have too. I mean, obviously I just witnessed it from the outside, knowing how you talk online, but based on how you talk online today versus how you were talking to just the world around you 10 years ago, you are a vastly different person.
Well, yeah.
I mean, you're still yourself. I'm not saying you're like, oh no, Neil. I don't mean you're not Neil anymore. I just mean like, I can tell that there has been a lot of growth.
Yeah. Well, and that's why, I run into people who knew me when I was in my late 20s, and especially when I was drinking. I think I met you after I stopped drinking in 2008. But so
that's when I met you.
Okay, so you met me like shortly after I stopped drinking. But yeah, there was a time where I just loved like being the most offensive, loud, drunk shithead in the room. And now I kind of just, I want to be more mindful of the words that come out of my mouth. And I want people to leave an experience with me and be like, hey, he's a decent guy, or a funny guy, or that guy smells funny, or, but not have it be like he be like, this was an affront to my personal morals and just like functioning as a person. You don't want to
leave a sour taste in someone's mouth when you interact with them.
Yeah, and that I used to kind of get off on that. They used to be making people uncomfortable, and especially while I was blacked out drunk, it was like so much fun to me. It was like a fun little social experiment. But that, you know, you leave an impression on people when you like hug them and you put all of your body weight on their shoulders and they fall to the ground and you're like panting, like, you know, I don't know, man. But yeah, I'm glad that you have that memory of the way I treated you, because like I thought you were cool. You're talented. You can sing. Shit, you know.
But I was just thinking about that, about going to I don't remember where the studio. I remember going to the studio. I don't remember where the studio was, but I remember
Plymouth.
the studio that you recorded Grabbleton's Beach in. I remember going there to record. And just feeling like, first of all, feeling very cool because like I was like invited to a recording session, and that was very cool. But also that was a beautiful studio.
Oh yeah, it's an old church. They renovated an old church.
Yeah, that space was just gorgeous. I was like, this is the dream. Neil's living the dream. But I remember when we were recording a song, one that my ukulele would not tune to the track, and it ended up having to be auto-tuned, I think, at some point. But I remember being like, whenever I hear this song, I hear someone yelling callbacks in it. Like the let's take a trip to Grabbleton's Beach. Where? Grabbleton's Beach. Where? I always heard that in the song. And you were like, yeah, go for it. Just do it. Just do the thing. Just have fun, man. Do whatever you want. Who fucking cares? And I was like, you're right, Neil. Do whatever I want. Who fucking cares? And then I did it. And now it's on the album. And
it is.
Benny used to like talk to me about how his like nieces or whatever would sing along to it, and that was like their favorite part to sing along to. And I just have all these great memories surrounding that record.
It's so wild because those nieces are now like teenagers, but not only that, but there were two sisters, and they would do the call and the answer when they would sing it in the garage. Like we would be playing the song, and it was at the jam space. We used to jam in this garage in Redford, and they'd come in and they'd start singing it, but the youngest one would do the callback, and then the older one would do the actual like melody of the song. So it was really like if that was your influence on the track, it lived on in the voices of children. So there you go.
That's honestly a place that I live in. Never intending to be an icon to small children, but continuing to inspire them. There are so many people. Well, I have a lot of audience members and like fans who have kids. A lot of my audience is women like me, and a lot of those women have chosen to have children. So I have like kids in my audience who were raised on my music, which is just wild. When you meet like a whole child that's like 11 and they've been singing your songs since they've been alive. Yeah. And like, that's like a whole kid. Like it has its own opinions and like she has her own likes and dislikes, and she writes her own songs now. And like, it's just insane to me to see, because I never wrote music for children. I never intended to write music for children. A lot of my music has swearing and dark themes and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I never meant for it to be for kids, but it is just incidentally for children all the time. I end up in wow, you really look like a children's entertainer. So I showed it to my kids, and I guess now you're their favorite thing. And we just deal with the fact that you swear during your live show.
Yeah, I mean, I remember we saw They Might Be Giants, which there are like kind of dark, obtuse, weird themes in their music, but they started doing kids albums, so they would actually put up a piece of paper at their shows and be like, hey, to all of the adults that are bringing their kids to the show, we're going to say naughty words, you know?
Just a heads up.
Heads up.
It might be brightly colored. Don't be fooled.
Right. So, man, it's been so long. I feel like we saw each other in 2012, and that was at the Underground Arts in Philadelphia, and you just recently, like, you were in Philadelphia, like, from what year did you actually go to Philadelphia?
2012.
Okay, so that was you were only in town for a short period of time at that point.
Yeah, I had like just moved to the area at that point, and then we just moved away earlier this calendar year.
So you're in Philly that whole time.
In the same apartment too.
Oh wow, that's a landlord. That's a lease that never ends.
Yeah, it was a month to month too, so there was a lot of trust there. I think we were the same level of shady.
Yeah.
Like they gave us handwritten receipts. There's still a receipt, but it was handwritten.
Hey, at least it's some sort of documentation.
Better than nothing, man.
When I was living in West Hollywood for a brief moment of time, I was Venmoing a guy that lived in Michigan who had the lease to the apartment in Hollywood, and technically they weren't supposed to sublet it, so everything about it was illegal. And
nice.
Then I moved out to another place that was equally as shady with 2 pit bulls that were violent. It was
oof.
Yeah, I had a great time. But let's talk about you. I tell all these stories on my.
Let's talk about your shitty life.
No, I mean, okay, so we could both talk about our shitty lives. My life hasn't been too shitty lately though. Like since I got back on Lexapro, I've
Hey, Lexapro.
I've been man, I was so anti-pharmaceuticals because I got off Zoloft in 2012. And I was like, I can do this without pills. I can do it. And then when the pandemic happened, I just like slowly descended into this really dark place. And that just came from like no live gigs. And then me just like pretty much living on the internet. And then not really having a full understanding of what
it was.
Not only what the internet is, but where my dopamine comes from. And I didn't realize how dependent I was on these live gigs to make me feel like I was worth anything. Yeah. And then it became, the only thing that makes me feel worth anything is if a stream goes well, or if I get a lot of donations, or if a lot of people tune in. And so when that would wane, or when the views on the YouTube would wane, I would just start thinking that no one gave a shit about me, and that I was pointless, and that my dad was right. And I don't know. Do you want to elaborate anything on that? Because you are a content creator.
I've been living on the internet since the beginning of time.
Yes.
I went to high school online. That's how internet I am. I genuinely went to high school on the internet. I've been making content. I realized this recently. I'm 30 years old. I've been making content for over half of my life.
Wow.
Like I had a YouTube channel in 2008. So I've been doing YouTube for 12 years. I've been doing blogging of some sort and editorial photo posting to promote my music since I was 14, on MySpace, back in the MySpace days.
Wow.
And yeah, right? Like genuinely, like, and I wish I could be like, oh, I was just on MySpace because I was like, it was just like the thing to do. But I remember concertedly, I had this was back when I was Haley Jane. So I had every MySpace that had Haley Jane or music in it, like in their URL. Like I owned all of them because I was so determined that like MySpace was all about my music promotion. I had a music account. I was like 100% there just to promote my music. And I was selling my songs on Kunaki, which probably nobody remembers or even knows about. It still exists though.
MP3.com.
Yeah, exactly.
That was 99. We had our stuff on mp3.com.
And the thing is, when you like, I think I am at the point where the thing that I value the most is whether or not I make people feel like there is a world outside of themselves that they belong in, even if it's just for a small amount of time. Like that is the thing that I am good at. It is what people have told me over and over again that's what they look for from me, is they look for like catharsis and safety and comfort and entertainment and this like very specific, like it's not a nursery rhyme and it's calming, but it's calming because it's validating and that like people interact with me and gravitate towards me because I'm fucking weird and they're fucking weird too. And they're like, if this weirdo is allowed to do this, then I can surely do whatever weird thing I'm doing, correct? And I'm like, yes, go do it, dude. Who's stopping you? And they're like, oh, fucking right. I forgot. I can do whatever I want. Nothing matters. And
oh yeah.
I still obviously like it's hard to not get attached to the numbers because especially if anyone who is focused on like personal growth or career growth in any kind of functional way, there's not really another way for you to be like, my music career is doing good other than looking at like, how is it going other than looking at the metrics for your social media, your streams, your stuff like that. Like, how else are you going to navigate that in 2021? Yeah. You have to be like, where are the people listening? How many of them are listening? To what songs are they listening? Like, what's the deal? Because you're independent and there's no one else but you to do the thing that is that. I think the luxury of being signed on a level of like, I don't know, who are big artists now? The Billie Eilish? I don't know how the fuck that works. But like the luxury of being a larger artist is that you don't have to think about that. Mm-hmm. You have someone else. That's the real luxury. Yeah. Like there are like having the millions of streams, whatever, not having to figure out how to market your own shit. Like that is the true luxury, because then you never have to view yourself in a way that makes you understand exactly how cringeworthy the content that you're making is. Because if you're viewing yourself objectively, if you're viewing content objectively as someone who is critical of their own art and critical of art in general and wants to make things that don't suck and are watchable, there is like this point in time when between just learning how to make stuff or like between learning how to make stuff and being like, okay, I'm learning, I'm doing okay. And there's this point where you're like just good enough to make stuff that's decent, but not good enough to make what you actually think is good. And that
I know all about that.
That part of the journey is so much longer than beginning to kind of good. Like beginning to decent, easy to do. Decent to I don't hate it. That is the longest journey of an artist. And in content creation, it's even worse because you have to watch other people react to your dumb bullshit in real time a lot of the time. And if it's positive, you're very lucky and you get to be like, hooray, I'm the greatest. And if it's negative, you have to find a way to spin it to make yourself, one, be able to continue doing whatever you're doing without acting like a jerk and staying entertaining and such. But right before I got on here, some guy commented that I'll never be a star and that I'm a black hole on my Instagram. And I was like, cool. Fucking great, bud. I've never seen your screen name on my page in my life. And the first thing you have to say to me is that I'm worthless and I'm never going to make anything of myself.
I feel
Good
like
talk.
Yeah. And you have to get thick skin in a way, but I feel like I prepared myself sort of for the content creation and the barrage of hatred I would get for even posting like remotely political content, especially this day and age, by being my own booking agent for my band, because I have been told no politely and impolitely so many times, and I've been rejected so many times, like while booking my own tours across the country, that it still doesn't feel good, but I feel like that just like kicked the crap out of me in a way where it's like now I can just laugh at when people say I'm this or that.
I feel very similarly about being a stripper and also being a hot girl online, because like there is nothing that's like that specifically inspires rage in men more than like a confident woman. So like the second you are like, when you're a hot girl online, you get all the like, the dick pics are sort of like expected, but then there's the like harsh judgments of your body, like very specific, like dissecting you, like you're being meat packed. And when you're a stripper, there are dudes that'll literally be like, I think you're ugly, go get your friend. So it's definitely made my skin thicker. I think that the only time that comments really got to me, like I thought about quitting the fucking internet, was when my cat's video went viral last summer.
Explain that.
So my cat Winslow plays the piano, and a clip of him went viral on Twitter. It got like 1 million views, and I licensed it to a couple news places, and it went all over the world. The clip was all over the world. It was in the Independent, it was in the Daily Star. I had a spot on NPR. It's the only time I've ever been on the radio was because my cat plays the piano.
Can we include? Can you send me that clip so we can include it in the?
Yeah, absolutely.
In the podcast?
I'll send you all the cat. Just send me a message. Send me a Facebook message that's like, send me the cat stuff, and I'll send you all the cat stuff. Keep going though.
I'm intrigued.
So this clip of my cat went viral, and when people can tell me I'm ugly and dumb and a bitch all day, whatever. But like people were specifically were finding ways to take this video of my cat playing piano and turn it into a saga of like how I'm a bad pet owner and I don't feed him, or I feed him too much, or I'm torturing him, or I'm causing psychological damage by creating a behavioral problem. And I had like hundreds of comments on TikTok in a day telling me about how I don't deserve to own my cat and things like that. And like it hurts to even think about, to be like, to tell someone they don't deserve to have their pet because he plays the I don't force. Have you tried to force a cat to do anything? It doesn't do shit.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't fucking work. If he didn't want to play the piano, he wouldn't be doing it. I can't make him do anything else. We tried to get him to ring a bell. He does not care. He wants to play the piano. He's played the piano since he was a baby. And we just happened to work it into his diet so that he didn't freak out when we stopped giving him just a bowl of food that he could eat at all day. We had to start giving him time meals to help him lose weight. So the piano became a way for him to earn extra snack, AKA timed snacks at a certain like time. So that way he got enough food, but wasn't eating just continuously throughout the day food.
So what was the basis of the criticism? Is it because the cat's bigger, or?
Yes, it's because he's bigger. It's because in the video, I don't feed him. Like he plays the piano and then I don't feed him, even though it's clear that the piano is normally rewarded with food at a certain time. So like there were people saying I did feed him too much. There are people saying I don't feed him enough. There are people saying that I was misleading him by having there being meal times, and also him. It's literally every single part of the interaction from both sides was put in a light that could make me the villain so that people could gang up on me and tell me how much of a dumb bitch I was and how much I didn't deserve this perfect cat.
I feel like Twitter, at least my perception of it is that it's a place for people to be outraged about everything.
Honestly, it was mostly on TikTok, and it was mostly from teenagers.
Yeah.
It's almost entirely from teenagers on TikTok telling me that I was abusing my cat because he played the piano. And you weren't behind the cat, forcing the cat to play? No.
Okay, so the cat was willingly playing the piano and you caught shit because of this, that, and the other thing.
Because of there being, like, it's a 26-second video or it's a minute-long video or whatever, and I don't feed him in the video, so therefore he's not being fed at all, even though he's clearly fucking 20 pounds. Like, yeah. He's gigantic. He's actually lost some weight since we moved because this house is so much bigger than where we used to live. Mm-hmm. This house that my brother bought my mom is, like, it's not a mansion, but to me it's a mansion. Like, oh yeah, I've never lived in a place this big. I genuinely don't. This room that we're in right now is like just my music and studio room. It's just for music stuff. That's why I can have this installation thing behind me, because it's a whole room in this house that's just for my music things. Whereas my apartment before was like a bedroom and then a second room that was supposedly a bedroom, but there was no living room that we used as an office for all of our sewing machines and all our streaming equipment. So like now we have a streaming music room and a whole basement workshop, and it's just, he's just skedaddling hither and thither. Just so much running around all over the place.
Hither and thither. Yeah, I have a similar situation where we were like, what we're paying for a 3-bedroom house out here, we were paying for a 1-bedroom apartment in a really gnarly neighborhood in Long Beach. And now, yeah, I have a whole room. I mean, I'm in it right now. There's an art table and there's my keyboard and all types of guitars and shit. And it's like, what the hell happened? Like, I have a creative space, and it is.
I got one of these things.
What's that?
It's a machine micro. I call it Maskeen.
Oh, a Maskeen, yeah, because it's spelled Maskeen.
It's spelled Maskeen, but yeah, it's a machine micro because I want to start learning how to. I want to program beats and stuff because I think it's really interesting, and yeah, I have exhausted the capabilities of the Logic Pro drummer function.
Oh yeah, I sort of got into that, and I'm like, I want to make my own. I want to program my own beats. So I have this MIDI controller, which is a keyboard and it has some pads on it and whatnot. But so yeah, and our cat has a house now in a backyard. Our cat's like, what the hell is going on? Because before it was just this tiny little shotgun apartment. And my girlfriend has an Etsy shop, and she makes all of these custom candles. And it just like our bedroom was her office / candle making thing / kitchen, and then there was my room was like the bathroom was right next to where I do all my streaming. So I'd be like in the middle of a stream, and then she'd come and do her thing in the bathroom and. We're just living on top of each other, and now we have this house, and she has the whole upstairs. It's wild. Does it feel better?
I mean, I don't know. I'm part. I feel kind of like a prey animal. Like there's too much airspace, and I'm like, I like sequester myself in one room, and I close all the doors just so I can like know the boundaries of my location.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. This whole situation is so weird. Like. It's a global pandemic. I moved across the state to a house that's like 15 minutes from where I grew up. So like the size of this house is like so far down the list of what makes this weird.
Right. So it doesn't even really register.
Like it's, I mean, I have a fireplace now.
That's nice.
I chill with the fireplace, and I'm like, this is a nice fireplace. And then I'm like racked with guilt because of the grief of my mother's death. So like it's give and take. There's a pool too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's a really fucking nice house. It's insane.
But the circumstances are less than.
Yeah. That's why it's so weird, because like in every logistic way, my life has improved.
Yeah.
Like I have access to a car that I can drive now. Like I can keep all my instruments out. My brother and his wife own this house. So like if I couldn't pay rent one month because I'm a full-time artist, it's not the end of the fucking world. Like it's not, by all means, everything has upgraded, but because like I upgraded into a space that's full. I mean, a lot of the, like when we went down to deal with my mom's stuff, she lived in North Carolina in a house that she owned. And we couldn't take all of it. So like, we just moved a bunch of her stuff that we could take into this house. So like I moved into this house, and even though she never got to see it, I moved into it with like a bunch of her stuff already being here. So it's really fucking weird. And like it infects my life so much that I can't not talk about it. Like even when I try not to talk about it, I'm like, my mom's fucking dead. I'm like, here it is, man. It's happening. We're in it. She died less than 2 weeks before her 70th birthday. Well, she's like 69. Got to get it under wire.
Just everything you're saying, I feel so similarly. Because especially I have a kind of a weird story too. Like my dad decided after he retired that he was going to buy a house in Tennessee on a fucking golf course because he loved golf. Golf was his thing. He loved golf more than his children. And so what was really weird is after he passed, my brother and I took a U-Haul down to this house in Tennessee we've never seen. And no one ever saw
And
it.
you're just like, I mean, I'd been there a couple times, but the last time I'd been to my mom's house was... There were like 2 times in 2019, but in 2019, my stepfather passed. And that was like the second time I'd ever seen the house. Was like going to clean up my stepdad's things because he had just passed. So like my 4th visit to the house ever to collect what I could remember that were childhood belongings was when she died. Like I had no relationship to it. So like, they're like her neighbors had this emotional relationship to the house. It was so fucking weird. Like I don't have any memories here because I'm not from here. Because you just ran away from your life instead of being a fucking person.
Same. My dad, we just packed up all of these like flat screen TVs. He hadn't even finished decorating.
Oh my God. This is like made out of shit that she left behind, that she like, this is hers. It was like on her bedroom door. It's like one of the few things that was displayed. Half of the stuff in this room is shit that she just didn't use, like craft supplies. I inherited thousands of dollars of craft supplies and sewing shit because she just didn't ever do the things she said she was going to. There was just so much stuff, thousands and thousands of dollars of like QVC jewelry she was going to wear to nowhere that was just in boxes. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's mind-blowing when you think about it.
I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that. All I can think in my heart is like, I do not want to become that person. Please, whatever I have to do with her. Cause like she wanted to be an artist. She wanted to be a maker. She wanted to be, and she did a lot of cool stuff. She worked at a theater close to here until she could no longer work. And she was a costumer again until she could no longer work. But like, it's just so, you're just looking at it like, please God, I don't want, like when I don't want that to be where I end up. How do I make sure, what do I have to do to continue being creative and continue being an adult to like not just do that? It's like a escapism thing with these like giant TVs and expect like what? Why?
I think you just need to be aware enough of who they were that if you start seeing an inkling of that in yourself, that you need to put the kibosh on it immediately. And that's why I'm on Lexapro again, because I saw when the pandemic was getting, I don't know how many months into the pandemic we were, but it was December 2020, about to be January 2021. And I was so fucking miserable and mean and impatient. And it really just dawned on me after my girlfriend and I got in a fight that it's like, holy shit, I'm acting like my dad. I'm a sullen, fucking miserable fuck. And that was really the catalyst for me to talk to a psychiatrist and go back on SSRIs, because it got really bad. And when it gets to the point where I see him and me, that's just when you need to put the fucking brakes on and make a change and really, and really I just had to take a deep breath and start over and be like, okay, who am I again? And why do I do the things that I do? And then I moved across the country and here I am now. So,
yeah. For me, the problem I'm dealing with right now is that like my mom was a really irresponsible person, but she is also a huge part of why I am the person I am creatively, because she's who started me and teaching me how to sew. And she bought me recording time for my first EP when I was 14. Like she was very supportive of my creative endeavors. Well, I don't know. It's a weird dynamic. It's like she did more than most parents probably would, but the way she spoke about my career as she got older, the things that she was capable of doing when I was a child were actually there. Like she thinks there was like a way she was like, oh, if Katie, if we had the money to help you, if we had the money to move to Nashville, you could have been Taylor Swift. Like there was no reason that you couldn't have, like you were just as talented as her, blah, blah, blah. But the truth of the matter is like, there were opportunities like that they were unwilling to help me pay for and do because it was not convenient. Mm-hmm. And like, so like the narrative, whilst similar to what that truth is, was like, I don't know. I only recently sort of woke up from that, probably in the last 5 years of being in therapy, of like what the actuality of my childhood was and my relationship with my mother being really inappropriate. And so I'm having this struggle of like, right now, my depression, I'm at this point where anything creative looks irresponsible to me because in my head, it's the path to mom. Yeah, so like, I'm having trouble conflating my desire to create with being childish, with being unwilling to harbor responsibility. So I'm like trying to figure out like where the line between being an adult following a path, a creative path, and being someone who's running away from their problems using the guise of being an artsy type.
You just summed up like my entire adult life.
That's why I was so fucking psyched to talk to you, Neil, because like we talked when I was living in Michigan, but like whenever I saw you, I was like, I feel like Neil and I are a lot alike. I could tell by the way you spoke to people, the way you talked on stage. I was like, I don't know, man. I really look up to you.
Aww.
Cause you're like, I'm very lucky to have people, independent artists who are farther down their path than I am in my life.
I'm just older.
Well, that's the thing. That's the only fucking difference. And I'm coming to realize that because I am lucky to be connected to people like you or people like S.J. Tucker, who are adults with artistic careers, who are being musicians, who are doing the thing. And it's helping me realize that I'm not as much of a fucking idiot as my brain likes to tell me that I am.
No, you're not.
My brain is like, you are dumb and everything you're doing is bad. I'm like, I think that's overstating. It's like, no, 100%. I promise it's bad. And I'm like, great, cool. Thanks for the talk. I'm going to go, I guess, just lie in bed all day. Is the answer?
Yeah, dude.
I don't know how that's effective I don't know. Like, because I couldn't make stuff, because I couldn't get myself to be creative musically. That's why I did like the decorations on this, because I'm like, well, at least I'm making the space look like me. So I feel more like it's my house and not like living in the ghost of mom's house, because she never even it was never her house. So like, it's this, so fucking weird. But yeah, I'm really lucky. I'm it's just really validating. I feel like what I perceive to be success is way more attainable than I like to make it feel.
It is. And the only reason I'm saying what I'm about to say right now is because I need to hear it too. You need to be able to tell yourself that and believe it. And that's the biggest thing is what was I saying on TikTok the other day? I was saying something about I achieved some of dreams that I didn't even think were possible, but because my expectations were so high right out the gate.
And also like here's the thing though, like how many realistic models for what it actually looks like to be a working musician do you think there were in your life? Like, as far as like what you expected, like what you knew? Zero. Exactly. There's no possible, because when people think, because this is not necessarily like the truth, but when people find me, they don't perceive me as successful. You know, like Same. They're like, why you're so underappreciated. You're so, what's my least favorite word? It's it's on the tip underrated. Of my tongue. Underrated. Yeah. I fucking hate that word. I fucking hate underrated, because like that means the value that I have is just the amount of ratings I can get. And that's like the amount of eyes.
And that's subjectively false, because because
all of it. But there's no other, people don't know what it means to be a musician who's not famous. They don't, you can be a lawyer and not be famous. And people are like, oh, I get it. That's a lawyer. If your lawyer's famous, there's probably something wrong. But being a musician and not being famous is seen as this like slight on your ability. And how as a musician can you not conflate success with fame, given what we have as a model for any sort of like, just any of it, what it even looks like to be a musician functionally. Like, what do we have to look at? Biopics, Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, it's either like world fame or you're a nobody. And that's another funny thing I find about the term one hit wonder. I remember, Sir Mix-a-Lot, Baby Got Back. That dude was not a one-hit wonder. He had multiple songs, especially in underground hip hop, that are revered as classics. But in the public eye, he's just the Baby Got Back guy. So it's like any sort of success he had outside of that one hit is just he was a nobody, and then he had one hit, and then he disappeared. No, he's still alive, and he's still you know what I mean. It's the public's perception of success, and it's all Hollywoodized and Americanized, and it's just like I don't know. They're just seeing things through the wrong lens. I think that's why I'm grateful that I came up as a teenager, like with punk rock and the DIY thing, because it's like here were a bunch of people doing it themselves, putting out their own records, and they had their own definition of success. And to me, they were my absolute heroes. But what's crazy now is seeing them in their 50s and 60s, and some of them are, way more working class than they even were in the 80s, because the popularity has waned a little bit. It's wild.
Yeah.
But I feel you, yes, and we do have a lot in common, and everything that you're saying, I'm like, yeah, that's me.
It me.
It me. It most certainly me.
It me.
But
man,
but my dad died in 2016, and I'm still a fucking mess from it. So my best advice to you is just take it day by day, and a lot of the questions that I have are never going to get answered, and there never will be that closure. And I think that's one of the weirdest things about, I guess, when my dad was dying of cancer. He actually had an open dialogue with my sister, and he was convinced that he was going to A, beat it, and B, he was going to fix his fractured relationship with his kids. And I didn't hear any of that. It's just what my sister told me. So I don't know how, if he even fucking said that, or if she just told it to me so I could be like, oh, he wanted to make things better.
That's another thing that I was like, the biggest part of Mom's death was that, like, so though this had happened before, I was like, obviously not her dying, but she had been hospitalized. She was hospitalized for meningitis when I was around 15 or 16. And, she was disabled after that and could no longer work. And she was in a medically induced coma for a couple of days, and she was hospitalized for about 10 days. And they genuinely thought she was going to die. That was the first time they thought she was going to die. And I was on the kid side of experiencing it. Like, I wasn't the one calling the hospital to check the records or whatever. I wasn't the one who had to interface with doctors or any of that stuff.
Same.
I was on the child side. So when Mom passed away, it was the first time that I was doing those things. I was the one who had to call the hospital to check because she was lying to my brother and I about what was happening. So I had to call the nurses or maybe she was senile, or I don't know, but the information wasn't correct. So I had to call the nurses to check that, to see what was actually happening. And it was the first time that I was on the grown-up side. And that, like, I learned so much about my family and their dynamic. And I guess when I left home, I thought, like, there was a part of me that I guess I didn't realize that I had left. It wasn't just Mom and Dad. The rest of my family is definitely continuing to, they're trying to be better at it, but it's nobody will fucking talk to each other and be honest. I don't know if it's a white people thing. It's just some waspy bullshit. Like, nobody will say the truth. And when I do say the truth and I'm upfront about things, it's treated like I secretly mean something else. And I'm over it, first of all. But I learned so much about my family dynamics and what was actually happening from Mom dying. Like, in an instant, I was like, oh, this is not necessarily her making. This is everybody involved, that the situation is like this.
Oh, yeah. My dad, I don't think when my dad was a child, he was an asshole. I think he became that way based on who raised him and the environment he was raised in. He was raised in Grosse Pointe. And You know, it's on the other side of the tracks from one of the worst ghettos in Detroit, and so he was taught to be fucking racist. He was taught that money matters. He was taught that you do this and you do that, and a proper, you know, you sit up straight at the dinner table or else you get hit type shit. You know, and then once that shit becomes unraveled, you kind of realize why people are the way they are. And my dad's side of the family, same thing. They talk about Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston at the dinner table, and if you talk about real shit or emotions, or if you're crying at your cousin's funeral, you're the weird one.
I know, and you're like, why is admitting that having a human feeling a weakness when literally the reason that all of you are fucked up alcoholics is because you won't admit you have human feelings.
Yeah, same.
You're not fooling anybody. Nobody's like, oh, you're special. You don't experience grief. Like, no, we all know you're just bad at hiding it and taking it out on everyone else. And when I say that, I'm the bad guy.
Oh, yeah. At my cousin's funeral, he died when he was 16, right after he got his driver's license. I was crying at the funeral, and my dad came up to me. This was early 2000s, maybe 2003. And he said, wow, you sure got your mother's emotions. And I'm just like burying my cousin. Like, come on. He's dead.
That's just tragic from an overall overall morality standpoint. Like a 16-year-old dying right after that's just a human.
It was bad.
Fucking, and the thing is, like, my mom is super emotional. Like, she was always super emotional, and she would use it to kind of like get her way. But then simultaneously would act like having emotions was bad. So I kind of have that where, like, I'm a hyper emotional person, but also secretly I believe that having emotions is bad.
Same.
Because I was taught I was taught to never hide how I feel and always be vulnerable and never have boundaries. But I was also taught not to have needs. Like how do you manage that? Because when you have
don't.
Like it's fine. I'll be fine. Listen, we're all learning simultaneously that pretty much nothing matters. It's all made up. Everything is just the lines in the road. It just works because we believe in it.
Actually, no, front lawns matter. Front lawns are important.
Front lawns don't matter.
Don't say that.
I put that on a fucking shirt. Front lawns don't matter. Fuck lawns.
I love my lawn.
Fuck lawns. Every single one should become a wildlife conservatory.
Or a garden, you know. Or a garden.
Well, that's the way that you can get to have a wildflower garden if you get your yard zoned as a wildflower conservatory. Like if your homeowners association won't let you have flowers in your yard for whatever reason. I've seen people get their yard zoned as like wildlife places so that they can have flowers in their yard. Or just like have the whole thing be flowers.
To think that's what you need to go through to do what you want with what is, quote, your land.
Your land, which like, here's the thing. I don't know if this is like just me going full galaxy brain, but like the concept of owning land has started to become so strange to me because like the land was there before us. It will be there long after us. Who the fuck are we to claim to own it? Ants.
And not ant like my mother's sister. We're insects.
It means like just to the gall, the audacity we have to say that we own land. Bonkers. Truly insane. Everything is renting. It's all renting. Yeah. Because we're going to die. We rent the casket too.
That's wild to think about. Caskets are expensive.
I know. That's why my mom got cremated. Now, like, fuck that shit, man. Like, just take whatever organs you can for science if they're useful, and then put me in a box this big, perhaps under a tree of some sort. Allow me to flower.
I mean, yeah, that's how back in the day it would have gone down. I want to become a tree. I want to blossom.
Something useful. Like a redwood tree, so I can live like 500 years or some shit and see the whole forest grow around me.
There you go. And then people can cut holes in you and drive cars through it, like in San Francisco, like north of San Fran.
Great. Love that for me. Honestly, isn't that already the life I'm living?
I do not know.
I am a redwood tree with a big hole cut through it with a highway going through. That's capitalism.
Yeah, quite possibly. But yeah, I'm gonna take a deep breath right now. Because what I like about this and the fact that like when I do this podcast shit, it doesn't necessarily have any sort of topics of discussion or any sort of actual format. So the fact that it was a free-flowing conversation that ended up kind of like delving itself into a little bit of a mini therapy session, like I love that. And thank you for letting me be able to, I need to talk to my therapist. So right now, thank you.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think that as artists, we have to feel really deeply because for me, genuinely, I think music is the most honest form of communication. I think that there's no way I can get my point across better than with lyric combined with melody and like a soundscape behind it. I can take you to a specific place and time and feeling, and there's a lifetime of cinematic and musical vocabulary for you to get cues from to understand what I'm trying to say. Like everybody can sort of, like obviously people have different readings of different texts, but like a sad song is sad and a happy song sounds happy or whatever. Even if the lyrics juxtapose that, then that's its own feeling and its own thing. And I can speak words, and especially if I type words, and you can misconstrue them in pretty much any way.
Oh yeah.
But by putting music and words together, like there's no other way for me to honestly express the depth of how strongly I feel about a place or a time or anything than I can through art, specifically through music. Because there's like, you have to spend time there. You have to experience the story of whatever song you're in order to sort of get the complete picture, to look at the whole piece. And having to spend that time means you sort of have to spend time in that little world and that little zone. And that's like, it's an orchestra of emotion. That is what we do as artists. And I think as someone who delves in multiple genres too, you understand that, because sometimes you write a song and it's like a folk song, and it has to be a folk song because what else is it going to fucking be but a folk song? Because you wrote this song with these lyrics and this tone because you meant for it to be a folk song. And sometimes you write a song and it's electronica and you're just like, well, I guess here we are, man. I don't have a choice. The emotions want to be that way. And what the fuck am I going to do? Tell them not to because you want me to be metal or rock or whatever.
And you end up confusing everyone in the process.
Yep. And then you have no genre and everyone's like, you defy genre. And you're like, that's great, but iTunes needs me to tag something.
That's why I just tell people we're alternative, man.
Ooh, I tried to listen to some modern alternative today, Neil, and I couldn't fucking do it. I got like 30 seconds through one song and it all sounded like Flyleaf with rap over top of it. And I was just like, I'm old. That's it. I like Lil Nas, man, but I couldn't get behind the alternative mix on YouTube.
Yeah, I don't even like any specific artists.
I couldn't possibly begin to remember because it was all the same, like vaporwave, pink and purple. Like everyone was like any glittery filter, like pink and purple. It was all kind of that same like thing.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear specifically who you're talking about because I actually
I'll have to check my YouTube history and send you a thing because I listened to it and I was like, I understand 100% why it's on the alternative hot list on YouTube. I absolutely get it. But it also sounds like what I would hear. I don't think Hot Topic is what it was like 15 years ago.
Oh, no.
Like, I don't think it's this goth zone. But if there was a Hot Topic for now, like what I think of as Hot Topic, that like alternative goth kid zone for 2021, this is 100% what they would play there. You would absolutely be listening to this like nu metal with a trap beat
Exactly.
and a girl singer. 100%. Like that's exactly what you would be listening to. But also, I fucking hate it. I'm sorry. I guess I'm old.
Yeah, it's weird because there's like an emo resurgence, but it all has like a trap beat.
Yeah,
underneath
and it's like there's, and I get why, because everything is, we're all doing that's what's popular. Like trap music is popular. The current thing is trap music, the same way that like everything had a break beat in it a little while ago. Mm-hmm. But also, it just changes the tone of those songs so much, because the emo boy worked because he sounds kind of not put together. Like an emo song works because you can't really tell if they're playing to a click track, because they're like being overwhelmed, right? They're like desperate with emotion. And when you put emo on top of a trap beat, you completely synthesize it. So you take away the desperation of just like getting it out. And it makes it sound really practiced, and like practiced emotion from a man is like, oh, you're going to rape me, huh?
Oh man.
Oh, this is an act because you are the prey and I am the prey and you are the predator.
Yeah, I don't know.
Your pink floppy hair makes me feel like I'm about to get assaulted. I have to back away. And it's just, I don't know that it just makes it sound kind of creepy to me. And maybe that's like the thing now, to be like when you're like a bad alternative boy, like maybe that's the vibe, because obviously the aggressive vibe will never fucking go away because of society. But like I was just like, this is it's just so clinical and clean. And it just gave me the very, I don't know, like pickup artist. It felt like a pickup artist anthem.
Well, that being said, the amount of like Warped Tour bands that weren't as pristine and clean in their delivery, a lot of them were outed as being predators back in 2005 to 2007 anyway. So it's all fucked.
Yep, it's all fucked. The second listen, that's the thing though. That's why I'm in that weird mom zone though, right? Because like but like what, to be creative means you have to let yourself be in some way, not controlled by whim, but at least inspired, motivated, driven in some ways by whimsy. Obviously, like, I think you completely understand that, because the Gravelton Speech album was like all this like super goofy, like saccharine, I think more than your other stuff was. And like that send up, like you have to, I don't know.
It was all inside jokes. It was very puerile. Is that the word I was looking for? It was,
I don't know.
There wasn't a serious bone in that album's body
thing. Yeah, exactly.
But that was the point. There was a couple like little social commentary things in there, but for the most part, it was just like whatever made us laugh and was as stupid and offensive as we possibly could be.
And the thing is, like, when you're trying to be creative or trying to be driven by whim in some way, and like it is so easy for that to tip over into being a fucking dipshit. It is like, there is such a fine line between like being an eccentric member of the community and like going off the rocker and just being driven mad by the fact that you gained an ounce of influence in the small community that you were in. Rockstar life with Kate Nyx.
Yeah, I mean,
constantly existential crises about like, is this allowed? Am I allowed? Is this too much? Am I too much?
But the thing is I don't think I had an even radar back then for any of that. And that's what's funny is that album's 11 years old now, and in retrospect, looking back at it, the answer is, this is too much, and oh, this is too much, and oh, this is too much. But I kind of admire that about myself back then, is I didn't even fucking think about, is this too much? Because right? I find you can hinder yourself with wondering those type of things, especially like right now, I have a clean slate. I can make whatever I want. I have the tools. I have a lot of talented friends, but it's like, what do I do? I like that well. I literally took all the water out of that well and I threw it all over the place.
That's why I started doing I started doing the live stream thing that I'm doing now in the summer of 2019. So I started before the pandemic.
Okay.
And as it went over time, I realized that like it wasn't just in my head. I was like, oh, I'll do a weekly live stream because I can't do in-person gigs because of my various chronic illnesses. So I'll just do like a weekly live stream out of my sewing room. I'll just play some songs and it'll be a way for me to stay in people's social media feeds and like stay relevant.
Yeah.
And then over time, it became this like multi-level variety production. Now my show has commercials and a theme, and it has in December we did a generic winter holiday special that had like custom, like I wrote music for it, and it had a choose your own adventure narrative that the audience was involved in, and it changed the direction of the story that I told, and had like interactive video segments and
That's
music
awesome.
videos and all sorts of stuff. And I've started turning it into this like genuine thing that's like, it uses all of the muscles. It uses all my video production muscles and I'm like, I use my puppet in the show, and I get to be like, I made a puppet and I use it, and just like that, just Henson like energy coming out of me. Just if that's that's what I want to do. I want to make art that's like all of it together, which is what the Muppet Show was, right? It was like the music and the costumes and all of it together. And that's what I've loved about live streaming, because by making the studio being like, okay, I can make whatever I want. So I'm going to, for my Bandcamp commercial, I have a black and white commercial where I play like a pinup clown, where I do this like 1950s radio style commercial. And then I have all these like other characters that I do for commercials. And on my live stream, people can buy kazoo solos. And now I have a foot tambourine, and they can make me speak in crazy accents. And it's in this like crazy interactive variety show that involves all these different things. And I've only been able to do it because I can do all of that stuff from this room, thanks to the internet.
It's a beautiful thing. And you know what? I wouldn't have even explored the live streaming thing for a second if it wasn't due to the pandemic. I know you got a head start before the pandemic, but the idea of performing not in front of an audience and on the internet, I was just like, that's bullshit. But now it's just like, whoa, I can do segments, and I can like come up with songs on the spot, and I can play videos that I put some editing time into, and it really creates a world of possibility that, like, if you're just a guy in a band getting up on stage, or a person in a band getting up on stage, that's it. You're a person on stage playing an instrument, singing songs. And now we're essentially running our own TV shows out of our house.
I know, it's my favorite. It's that feeling when my pre-roll is running, because I have like I subscribe to the Walt Disney ideology of like, make the thing before the thing just as fun as the actual thing. Like how, all the Disney World lines have like, it's like a big long experience that you go through with like props and shit. Like I watch a bunch of like old Disney behind the scenes stuff all the time to get ideas, because I think theme park design and live stream design have a lot in common as far as isolating experience and creating experience. And so like for my pre-roll, there's a character named Professor Nyx, who's me from another dimension. And she comes in and she tells people like how to interact with the stream and who the moderators are. And she like beams in and starts the stream, and there's a countdown that happens. And every time the countdown happens and I see the 10, 9, 8, like I get excited, even though it's this room, it's right over there. But it's so, I don't know. It's a feeling on like, it's like getting on stage for a live show, but you get to control all of it. There's no hidden factors. You get to control all of it. The generic winter holiday special had like 150 people at it.
That's awesome. That's a good number for Twitch.
Right? Like that's like a bar.
Oh yeah.
That's the park bar. You know, like that's the Teasetown audience. I think about it in that. Like I always think about it as like how many people is this compared to like what it would be at a live burlesque show or at a live club. So like that's how I sort of judge it. Like 150 people, like that's, and they stayed the whole time.
That's awesome.
Like it was like an average of 120 people watched my fucking variety show where I wrote a holiday special about how Dom Toretto was going to save the future or something. Like, and there's mythology and people follow it and they quote the commercials in the chat when they come up. And it's just like this, my whole life, I was always waiting for some label to scoop me up, right? Like we always think about like, oh, I'm going to get signed with a manager and live the dream. I'm going to be a star. I'm going to, you know, like the glamorous thing. I always was assuming someone would come up and I would be scooped away to some community or be a part of something bigger, that someone else would be like, yeah, you're good at your thing and you should come be on our team in the cool zone. And now I'm realizing like I made it myself. I'm making the cool zone myself, bitch.
I'm in my own cool zone.
I make my own cool zone. Thank you very much. We have puppets and sketches.
Yeah, and really, like, once you get into the Twitch sphere and you start looking at what the other creators are doing, it's so much more than just people. Like, I just thought it was people playing video games. It's like, okay, it's like, holy shit, there's human beings that are creating their own worlds. I mean, yourself included. And if you're willing to put in the time, the possibilities are limitless. If you ever told me when I was a little fucking kid that I could have my own TV show and if I could like make songs up on the spot and play all types of different instruments and then people would actually watch it. And on top of it, like you were saying at the Park Bar, that was an ensemble cast of how many people when we did the Teasetown. I mean, I think I got paid $40. You know? So like, but since it's your show,
I didn't get paid much better because I was technically one of the producers. So
what? And that's I was having a conversation with my buddy that does drums on Twitch, and it's just like you don't have to split the money with the band. It's your show. Nope. And
yeah, and the way that, because people understand in my audience that I'm chronically ill and have really limited energy, the way I have my tip jar set up is like, I have tip goals for every night. And if we meet the tip goal, then I'll do more songs. And people have never given me shit about that. They've always been like, yeah, that makes sense. You can't play music a lot. We appreciate your time. Absolutely, we'll pay for it. And like, I have never felt that from any audience ever before. Mostly it's been like, give us shit for free. We hate you.
Oh, yeah. Well, and especially depending on which market you're playing, there's some... I think Detroit is pretty notorious for being, it's kind of unforgiving in that we're spoiled.
Jaded?
Yeah, well, jaded, but also just being kind of like, yeah, we've seen it all. And, you know, and yeah, what do you got? Okay. You're kind of indifferent in a way. Tough crowd. It's a tough crowd.
Listen, I was very, when I was doing the burlesque thing, I was very grateful I learned in Detroit, because it's way harder to please a Detroit audience than it was to please a Philadelphia audience.
Oh, yeah.
Way harder. Detroit gave zero shits, especially because they were used to Roxy Delight too, who's like one of the top burlesque dancers in the world. So like only competing with, I was like 19, like trying to compare myself to Miss Exotic World. Yeah,
like a world renowned performer. And I mean, but you probably learned real quick.
I did.
That's
and Roxy was very, Roxy didn't give me a lot of like burlesque knowledge, but every once in a while she would just be like, sprinkle some like, don't give a shit about other people. Just keep doing your own thing. Your own thing is the right path. The path you're on is good. Don't pay attention to other people.
And that's the advice that really guides you along the way. When it's someone that's seasoned and successful, giving you a little tidbit.
Yeah.
So, do you want to go into it all? What debilitates you? Because I'm curious.
It's not really. I mean, I have hypermobility. It could be Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I never got officially diagnosed, but I have like generic fibromyalgia, chronic acute chronic nerve pain.
Yeah.
I take medication for stuff like that. I don't actually take any like depression or anxiety meds. I just take a bunch of nerve pain medication for my I just have general nerve pain and repetitive stress injuries from sewing and dancing that have just left my body in excruciating pain pretty much 24/7. And I have chronic fatigue, probably from my depression and anxiety, but we'll never know whether or not it's from that or my hypermobility or a combination or both or whatever. I have like a miasma of things that never got any kind of specific label, but I have like meds I have to take all the time, and I have mobility device when I can't walk great, and sometimes I just have to sleep for a bunch of hours in the middle of the day, or like right now I have a migraine and I'm dealing, but like that's why I have medical marijuana, because I got my weed card and it's a fucking blessing.
Yeah, it's God's medicine. But I feel
Thank God.
I feel like when you're in constant pain, that can just exacerbate any sort of underlying anything, depression. Yeah,
it's a cycle, because the anxiety will inform, like earlier this year, I had a 48-hour anxiety attack that kept me with 100-degree fever.
Oh man.
And like when your emotions and your health are so conflated like that, it's impossible to know where the line between what people would consider a psychosomatic symptom and a symptom of, like, I was worried I had COVID because I was like running this fever and my heart was beating so hard that you could see it like through it was moving my shirt. And this was like 48 hours of this. And eventually I managed to calm down, but it's just, it's all together, you know, like if I'm depressed, then it's hard to come up with the energy to fight past the chronic pain, which then informs which then I don't get things done, which informs the negative opinion of myself. So it's like its own cycle, which is also kind of what was wrong with my mom too. Like she was disabled. She had a lot of neuropathy from having meningitis. But she also really victimized herself and really sort of like let sick person be her identity. Mm-hmm. And it played into how things affected her, because sick person was who she was. And it's hard not to get caught in that. I understand, because like you can just go the route of getting fed opiates until you are not alive. Especially when like she died at 69. So like she was in her 50s when she was like really on opiates. But when you're like 55 and you're like, I'm in a bunch of pain, they just like hand you drugs. When you're 30 and you say I'm in a bunch of pain, they're like, try harder. They're like, are you sure? I'm like, yes, please. Can you prescribe something? I'm on gabapentin, which is just a nerve. I think it's also used for anxiety, but yeah, it's hard not to just like let it be all consuming. And the thing that sort of put it over the edge was I did a Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling burlesque show about 3 years ago.
Did you actually wrestle?
Yes.
That probably was bad.
It was very bad for me, Neil.
I'm sorry.
It was very bad. I had chronic conditions. You knew me when my knee got dislocated. Remember at the Wonderland New Year's Eve show? I dislocated my knee and I couldn't walk for like several weeks.
Oh, geez.
And I got driven to the hospital wearing a child's flamingo outfit after the New Year's Eve party at Wonderland by two gentlemen in tuxedos. It was a lot. Our mutual friend was there for the occasion. Yeah. So like I was already fucked up, And then I learned how to wrestle in 2 months, and I wrestled 2 matches over a weekend. One was videotaped for the world's only burlesque IPPV at the time, though now burlesque pay-per-views are a thing. But in 2017, they weren't. I made the first one ever. My husband and my best friend and I. It was a scripted burlesque wrestling show where we had wrestling matches and followed a plot where my burlesque partner in crime and I learned how to become wrestlers and challenge the champions of the gorgeous ladies of burlesque, aka Globe.
Glob.
And, yes. So yeah. But it was really bad. And my husband, I wrestled my husband and another gentleman, and they did not take it easy on us. And I really fucked my body up. I like almost paralyzed myself. Yeah. There were times when I couldn't walk, and that made me super depressed, which made the pain worse. So it was like this, again, it was the beginning of like what could happen if I just let myself run myself ragged and didn't take care of my body and only worked and only did what was best for the show and never gave a shit about my health. And then I couldn't walk. And like my husband had to like carry me to the bathroom and stuff. And I was like, this is not where I want to be. So I went to a rheumatologist and a neurologist and all the people. And they found nothing conclusive wrong with me because it affects my muscle tissue and the collagen in my muscles and not necessarily things that you can tell through an x-ray or whatever. So I just have like lifts in my shoes to balance my spine, and I have scoliosis. So there's all these different bunch of little problems wrong that make it hard enough for me to survive that I would rather just work from home and do it myself and do the best I can from home than risk trying to, I don't know, be a part of a society that isn't necessarily suited to the physical capabilities that I have.
Well, and that's good that you could recognize that and take that path. I have a bunch of disc issues in my lower back, and I have hypermobility as well. And when I was going to see a chiropractor, they essentially told me that I can't do any of the things I like anymore. And
yeah, they're like, there was a doctor that was like, you can never run ever. You can never run. I was like, oh, okay. Like no running, no jumping, never. Your feet are too flat.
Yeah, and how do you just tell someone that, and you expect them to like walk out of the doctor's office and just like go on living their life with that knowledge? It's You're
just like, okay, cool. Great.
I'm glad that you have cannabis for the pain. It is really a miracle for pain management, and I'm glad that you're not, eating a bunch of opiates, because that is something that will just lead to dependency and death. And I remember there was
super scary.
Yeah, and it's a real thing.
My mom was addicted to opiates for like 10 years, and the only reason she quit was because they wouldn't prescribe them to her anymore. And it was scary, man. She did not intend to, and she absolutely overdosed at my wedding reception, and it was like a huge problem. And she was not to the point of needing medical assistance, just to the point of being like completely unintelligible.
Yeah, really messed up.
Yeah. And like it was the first time she was meeting like my husband's parents and like and it was I don't think she ever forgave herself because she doesn't remember any of it. Like she doesn't remember the only experience that she has connected to my wedding, because I didn't allow her at my actual wedding because I knew something like that was going to happen and I wanted to enjoy my wedding. And that sounds really callous because like I'm her only daughter and she didn't get to see her daughter get married, but like she had the opportunity to be at the wedding reception and she didn't pay attention and she OD'd on fentanyl. And
oh man,
like,
see, it makes sense to be callous in situations like similarly the situation I was in. People are like, how could you say that about your father? And it's like, well, did you live with him? Did you experience?
Yeah, like, did you get, like, it's like even the most positive conversations are still tinged with this like dynamic of whatever your parent perceived you as, be it a punching bag or personal assistant.
Oh, man.
Like every interaction is tinged with it. You can't unsee it. And when you are in therapy and you're like waking up to these things, it was impossible for me to interact with her at the end of her life because like I just saw everything she was doing completely transparently. And I just like, I can't interact with you acting like this.
Because
like, what, how, I don't want to stop being around, but also I guess I'll just pretend to be someone else while we're talking because there's no other way but to just be like, yep, this is a normal interaction with small talk. Gotta go.
Yeah, and I didn't really wake up to any of those realizations until after he passed, because that's when I started therapy. Like, so you were waking up to all of that like while she was still alive.
Yeah, and so I was like starting, and I was trying to get her to go to therapy because she was like just not doing it. She was just doing anything else but, and yeah, it's weird. It's a really weird because I've been. It's a fucked up situation. My husband the other day. He was like, this is shitty to say. And I completely agree with him, which is why I'm even saying it, even though it is kind of a callous thing to say. He was like, this is awful to say, but whenever you're really sad or in pain, you tend to write really good music. So,
oh man,
at least there's that. And I was like, fucking God damn it. You're right. I'm going to write a whole goddamn Everclear album. Yeah. It's like, mother, oh mine, where have you been?
When I was a kid, I used to listen to that song on repeat and just be like, duh, my daddy gave me a name and then he walked away.
Yep.
You may catch me like laughing at these moments. It's just because I get it, you know?
No, you understand. Listen, I don't have the energy to act in a way that society perceives as acceptable.
Same.
So just fucking do like, and that's honestly why I feel like I was kind of avoiding live streaming. I'm only starting up the new season now. Even that we got here. I mean, I don't know. It's pretty soon. We moved here February 6th. We're starting the next season of my live streams. I do them in seasons because, when I stream weekly, my voice tends to wear out. I don't have a lot of like stamina. So I do like 7 episode seasons, and I take 5 weeks off to like make a new commercial and change the content up and take a break. And then I do another season. We're up on season 5 coming up at the end of the month.
Wow, cool.
And like each episode has a different theme and all that stuff. We've started, I guess, part of the gimmick right now in the community is this. With everything is kind of Fast and the Furious themed. We're on a real Fast and the Furious kick. So the show is called The Lullaby Lounge, but this season it's just called Lounge 5.
Yeah.
That was my husband's idea, and it's because there's the generic winter holiday established this idea that Dom Toretto is the Jesus Christ figure in our version of Christmas. So now Dom Toretto is. We're doing a spring fling episode this season that's going to be like a prom for everybody because I like to encourage the audience to participate. Like the intro to our show, there are people from our Patreon who we all have like film turn-in smiles like from 90s TV shows, and then their screen names are underneath.
Oh, nice.
So like the audience is involved in the show. So for the spring fling, I want to like have people like show people's photos and their outfits for the fake prom that we're throwing. But I plan to, make sure everybody leaves room for Dom Toretto between each other when they're dancing. Got to leave room for Dom.
Okay,
So-
I apologize. Who is Dom Toretto?
It's Vin Diesel's character in Fast and the Furious.
Oh, okay,
He's the main
all right,
guy.
Okay, all right. I've never.
It's the main guy.
I hate to say I've never seen one Fast and the Furious movie in my entire life. I apologize.
Here's, you know what? I'm going to sum all of them up for you. Okay, so Vin Diesel is Harry Potter.
Okay.
If magic was cars.
All right.
There you go.
It's a pretty simple analogy.
Yeah. Vin Diesel's Harry Potter if magic was cars.
So he's learning to wield cars?
Yep. It's for the good of mankind.
Okay.
He knows cars so good that everybody needs his help. He's so good at cars and the streets that everybody needs his help.
He's the chosen car guy.
He's the chosen one of car guys. Which is why he's the primary protagonist in my folk religion around my live stream variety show.
So he's the deity.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
He brings us bats on generic winter holiday to show us good tidings. There was a whole segment at the end of the show where he came and saved me, and I was riding in his car, and all he was responding to anything I was saying was family. It's the primary theme of all the Fast and the Furious movies. So is there a juggalo element to it? No juggalo element, but I can see that. Honestly, there's probably juggalo and Fast and the Furious fanboy crossover for sure. There's juggalo car guys that are really into Fast and the Furious.
I wonder if there's Fast and the Furious juggalo fan art.
Oh, for sure. I bet you if you Google Vin Diesel juggalo right now, there's some.
Oh no.
That if that doesn't exist, I will be surprised.
I need to start
I
drawing
will only
it.
be surprised if it doesn't exist.
I'm intrigued. Okay, so while I got you on here, when does
Lounge 5?
When does Lounge 5 start?
March 30th, and it's going to run for 7 Tuesdays. The first episode's one theme. This is the first time we've done a theme for episode 1. Normally episode 1 is just the season premiere, and we just do a bunch of randomness. One of the season premieres, I read a fan fiction I wrote when I was 10 years old as one of the rewards for the Twitch channel points. But the first episode is new season, new metal. We're doing all new metal covers.
I like it.
Yeah.
Cool. And listed below, because this is going to be on YouTube, listed below is going to be your links, Kate.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Twitch.tv/Kate Nyx or katenyx.live.
No, that's spelled KATENYX, correct?
Correct.
Yo, check it out. I'm intrigued because, man, a lot of the people I see on Twitch, there's not a whole lot of production value. So I'm really intrigued as to see the fact that you're scripting all of this and there's different scenes and cuts and stuff. Because I'm always interested in.
It's all out of necessity because of my energy level from having chronic illness. I can't play a 2-hour show. I just can't. I physically cannot. Mm-hmm. So that's why we have the pre-roll and we have commercials and stuff so that I can take a break and I can rest. But it ended up being a huge part of what people liked about the show. The reason that they're there is so that I can rest my voice or get a drink of water or whatever, or tune my guitar. But it ended up being actually one of the sort of rituals around the show was people quoting it as it happens and stuff like that, like Rocky Horror.
Nice.
So yeah, it was done completely out of necessity, but it's been really fun to use as a creative outlet as well.
Well, and that's the thing too with streaming is you have the ability to do stuff like that. You're not chained to the stage for an hour and a half.
Yeah, because when you show video segments in a live show, it completely stops the vibe. When you show unless you're in a giant concert arena.
Unless you're Weird Al.
Yeah, unless you're Weird Al.
Because that works. I've seen it.
But unless you're at that level, like if you did it at the level that we are at, if you just showed some stuff on a screen at the bar you were playing, it would completely fuck up the vibe.
Yeah.
But not now. Not here in my domain.
That's beautiful. And I think whether it's COVID or not, I think adapting and pivoting and finding a way to continue to be you, whether it's you or I or any creative person and in this digital realm is really important, because I feel like what my school was get in a van with your bros and drive around and play shows, and then, you know, people will come. That model is kind of dead, you know? Mm-hmm. So,
I mean, the mentality though is still the same, I think, online.
Yeah.
Like you have to have the same sort of idea of like your job is to make a party that people want to stick around at. Like wherever you are, whether you're making a party on Instagram or making a party on Twitter or whatever, if people want to hang out in your DMs and your mentions, that's the party, and it's your job to just manifest that party that people want to show at that other people want it, that people want to talk to other people about. And that's always been the thing for us since the beginning of time, has been, here's my graphic, here's my flyer. Do you want to come to my party? Do you want to come to my prison theme burlesque show? You want to come to my circus wrestling burlesque? Do you want to come to my erotic arts expo, my erotic poetry festival, my 5 bands and a burlesque dancer? Yeah,
you summed up my entire adult life again.
There it is. Whoop, there it is.
Whoop, there's my butt.
Yeah, this is your life.
This is your life, Neil Patterson. No, man. I feel good. I'm glad we had this conversation. No, for real. It's I didn't realize. Well, first of all, the passage of time. So much time has gone by, but just the fact that we, even without staying in close touch, that we have been going through similar situations, you know, emotionally. It feels good. It feels
shows
like,
you the sort of the human experience is inevitable. There's no point in trying to avoid it.
Oh, it's gonna get you.
It's gonna get you. You can try to not be a human for as long as possible, but it'll snag you eventually, bud. Those feelings, they're gonna creep up, and they're gonna be like, "Hey, it's time to deal with this." Or
unless you're a sociopath,
you can go batshit insane.
Unless you don't have feelings, unless you're Dexter and you just collect blood slides. Who knows? Who knows?
Maybe that's your thing.
Yeah, maybe that's your thing. You don't have empathy and you kill people.
Oh man, I think that's most people's thing currently, unfortunately.
Yeah, I feel you on the feeling things deeply. And I remember when I first got into therapy, and I was explaining who I was to this new person, and she's like, that's a gift that you feel so deeply that you can express yourself based on those feelings. And that was the first time it ever got framed that way for me. And I was like, oh, so it's a good thing being sensitive.
It hurts so much sometimes. Yeah. Like, it's awful. Secondhand embarrassment is so painful. But also, I don't know, we have the unique ability to take things that affect us and turn them into something that people can experience in like a positive or at least cathartic way.
Yeah.
Like, that is truly like, that's what we're here for, is to just be like, hey, I know you're feeling like however you're feeling right now. Would you like to listen to this while you experience that? So it's not so whatever it is. Here you go. Have fun.
Yes.
We decorate time. That's how I see it.
Oh, I like that. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah. I always think about it as like, I the way I try to frame it is that my audience allows me the permission to decorate their time. Like, they let me take up their time, because I used to perceive my financial success or lack of thereof as the only way that I perceived like my goodness at what I did. But that's what I do is people are willing to spend their time on me. And I think that is so much more valuable in the overall scheme of things, because like anybody can be at a different monetary level. Like you can be rich or you can be poor, but like being willing to sit with someone's ideas for 2 hours, like that's dedication. That's giving of fucks. And if someone gives that many fucks about me, then clearly I can't be like the absolute worst person on earth, right?
Yeah, and I think that's really important too, especially like if you're creating content, or you can compare yourself to these people that are seemingly pulling in these higher numbers, or they have more viewers. But the fact is if you look at what's right in front of you, and you're like, okay, this many people decided to spend this much time, especially with like YouTube analytics and the fact that like people are spending hours looking at my stupid ass, like
rewatching stuff. That's what gets me, man. Someone rewatching a live stream I did. Like, I understand if you're there live for the experience of having like live entertainment in that unique way. I think that digital is very specific. It's a very specific thing. It's not like live entertainment in a venue, because you're not talking to each other in the same way where other people can perceive the social interaction in that same way. So it's like a confessional booth directed at another confessional booth. That's how I kind of see like digital connection, because we're in our homes, like we're in our private space, we're comfortable. So we're slightly more vulnerable to a different state than if like I had to like dress up and get into my car and go to a bar to see a show. It wouldn't be that same thing, because I have to project my social self around the other people at this, and I have to worry about that while experiencing the thing. So like, it's just this really
That's a good point.
It's a really unique space, you know, like, and I don't know. I think we're really lucky that we get to navigate these new waters of like what it means to be a musician in the future.
Where the future's now, man.
It's now 2021. That's a future year. That's not even real.
Definitely.
Sometimes I look at the year and I'm like, that's the name of a sequel.
Yeah, it's definitely some sort of sci-fi movie from the 80s, like Rampage 2021.
Cyberpunk dystopia, where we're all jacked into the framework.
Yeah, and we're getting closer and closer on the daily. But no, I appreciate your viewpoint on all of this, because, you know, like I told you before we started rolling, that there was a fair amount of burnout that I had, because I'm like, okay, my self-worth depends on how many people are ingesting this content that I'm making. But I think it's a really healthy viewpoint. You're decorating the decoration of time, and you being grateful for that intimate, that time spent in an intimate space where you're comfortable. Like I feel like that's a really healthy way to look at it, because before I'm just like, okay, well, I need to make this like a show. I need to make this like me being on stage. But no, it's fucking different. And you kind of just blew my mind with that, honestly. Woo.
It's, I mean, I think I only got to that point because I look at my life and I'm like, I think like I've done things that I consider to be goals. Like if you had told 16-year-old me that I was going to work with Brian Viglione from the Dresden Dolls, I would have lost my shit. I would have lost my shit. And he was the drummer on what is my most successful record yet. And like thinks I am a good enough musician to still encourage me. And like we talk on the phone and shit. Like, and I, in my heart, know that is like, it's true validation, because it's another musician who I value just from a performance aspect. He's one of the most talented drummers I've ever seen. Like, and that person like spending time on me and wanting to come and play on my record. Like clearly there's a reason that person, like that you want to do a podcast with me, that Brian wants to spend time recording with me. Like clearly there's something there.
Oh, you're no different than any of us. We're all, you know?
Yeah. And I wouldn't have come to that idea without the community that has gathered around me. I think because I was raised with no boundaries, I'm willing to be very vulnerable about things that other people don't necessarily be vulnerable about. Same. And by being that way, I have attracted people whose softness has been in some way scorned or misunderstood by the world, whatever their needs were. And because of the way they interact back with me and their willingness to sort of be swept up in the story of it all, it changed how I viewed what I did, because suddenly it wasn't just about me validating my own music and needing to be like, oh, I need to get my music out there. It was like, oh, I'm throwing a party for a group of people who come here to spend time with each other. Like, I'm the old like cabaret singer at the bar who's like in her 70s and she owns the bar, and every once in a while she'll get up on stage and sing a song, but most of the time she's behind the bar but serving drinks. Like, that's sort of my digital space. Like, obviously, like, I'm singing and playing songs and there's doing these sketches, but like, it's all about creating an experience where people can feel united, because that's the whole fucking point of live music, right? It's a religious experience. We're all there to be here together in the moment and feel like the human connection of being around someone else, of being connected to art and the universe and whatever. And like, providing that online, it's such a different equation. But once you see it for what it is, it really, I don't know, man, like, this is truly a gift. And I know that the pandemic fucked up a lot of people's lives. And I'm not saying that I'm like glad the coronavirus happened. Obviously, my mom is dead. Like, I'm not psyched about the global pandemic. But I think that the necessity of live stream entertainment be coming to the forefront legitimized what I do in a totally new way. And it allowed me to create something that was something I would never have been capable of doing, because I wouldn't have believed in myself enough to try and attempt it. Not that I wasn't capable of it, but like, I wouldn't have spent the effort, because like, I think my ideas are dumb and I don't deserve to spend time on them. But when I had this audience of like 50 people who were like responding to my jokes and talking in the chat and stuff, like, it was different. It became something different.
I'm inspired.
Neil, that means a lot to me. Like, a lot.
No, but fucking A, because I can be such a sullen, fucking jaded, sad person. And to hear you talk about what you do, the way you talk about it, I'm just like, that's, you know, I want to possess a similar mentality and the gratitude. And that's one of the main things. I have all these gratitude things that my therapist is, you know, love and gratitude are the highest vibration, and to, you know, immerse yourself in these high vibrations and you'll have a more vibrant life, et cetera, et cetera. But it's hard when you're like, kind of want to die to really.
Yeah. When you're just like, when your body is like, you know, it'd be great not existing anymore. And you're like, I don't have the fucking time, dude. Like, I don't have the time. I have shit to do. The most important part of having a creative career online is being able to be the majorette in your own marching band 24/7. Like, you have to have so much, or you have to be able to project the willingness to like just project your bullshit consistently, constantly, and without like faltering. You can't, or when you do falter, you have to falter in a way that is relatable and like manageable. But I don't know. I think it's because of maybe the brand that I've built and the community I've built and the conversations that actually happen. I've been online for so long. I know how bad it can get. And I am very vocal about what it means to participate in my community, about what is and is not allowed as far as like what people can provide to each other, and what, like, it's hard to, I'm just really adamant about having boundaries and valuing other people, and I say those things all the time, and I treat the conversations that I have with my audience with the gravity that I would if they were in person. So people tend to respect the time that they spend with me once they realize what's happening. Because there are people who will come in and like they want to troll and be a jerk or whatever, and they're like, dick stuff, blah, 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 blah. And then I engage with that person and treat them like a human being. And they're like, oh shit. And then they say for a song and realize I'm not blowing smoke and I'm actually good at what I do. And they're like, oh fuck, I'm going to be here all the time now. I'm going to say kind of weird, jerky troll stuff sometimes, but also I'm going to tip $30 at every show and be a respectable member of the community on your Patreon.
Yeah, I had one YouTube commenter go in hard about how my girlfriend and I look like we're homeless, and then I just was like, I forgot what I said to the person, but they ended up like apologizing and being like, well, we have differing opinions, but you know, you guys seem like decent folks, and I'm just, it was funny. But yeah,
that's the ultimate online victory. When you can get someone from just being fucking wanting to jerk off on whatever thing they want to say, you know, like whatever, you're a black hole, you're not a star bullshit. When you can turn them around by just engaging with them, that's the ultimate, that's like the true high of online communication.
Yeah.
That's what everyone's looking for when they argue with someone that's completely against their views on Twitter or whatever. Like they're looking for that validation.
That's what I told my girlfriend. I said I won. She's like, what?
Ultimate victory.
I said someone on YouTube apologized.
Incredible.
Yeah. Small victories.
Yeah.
But
are you kidding me? That's a huge victory. Getting someone to go from being a total jerk to actually treating you with empathy. That's one of the most human. Like, can you imagine? Can you imagine if you had those things we have had those interactions in person. I think that's probably why we can manage them online. Like once you have some drunk person trying to tell you what you need to do with your music career because they've never seen you before and you're the touring act and you're just like, you should do this for real. And you're like, this is for real.
Yeah,
this is for real right now. I'm here.
Oh man, I'm here. My heart is beating.
Oh no, hold on. Sorry. I unplugged my headphones. In honor of the 20-year anniversary of Downtown Brown, I would like to present to you the pitch for Gravelton's Beach, the musical.
Okay. Shoot.
The official Downtown Brown musical. So it starts, the gimmick is it's like it barely had a plot. The original, I was talking to my friend, my best friend at the time, or still my best friend. And we were driving on a road trip from somewhere to somewhere. I think it was a Ren fair that I had to do. And we were listening to Gravelton's Beach pretty much over and over the whole way. And we developed this like intense mythology around the characters presented by the text of Gravelton's Beach and like the greater catalog of Downtown Brown.
Oh man.
So the gimmick is that like it's basically like a summer camp style, like summer camp movie, 80s beach movie, right? So the first song is Let's Take a Trip to Gravelton's Beach, and we're on imagine this is a Broadway musical, you guys.
Oh, I'm ready.
We're on a bus together. So the first scene is we're on the bus together singing the Let's Take a Trip to Gravelton's Beach. Obviously the original iteration of it. It's been like 10 years since I've thought about this, so I'm just trying to remember as much of it as I can.
Do your best.
I remember there being there's like so it's a summer camp movie it's basically Wet Hot American Summer.
Okay.
But with the Downtown Brown music. So
weird.
there's a Mullet Millennium number because like the lead counselor at the camp is like a really 80s hair metal mullet guy, or maybe the guy who owns the camp, the Gravelton's Beach summer camp. I remember there being a really extravagant cafeteria number to Meat Wave.
Nice.
Where there's like milk, pyrotechnics, and like lunch and like carts sliding, like, you know, like lunch lady sort of like carts sliding with like people breakdancing on them and backflipping off of them and stuff. We were talking about this gigantic stage show. So it's a summer camp. So obviously there's like going to be like teens sneaking around doing summer camp stuff, right? Like there's going to be like, you know, like sexy teen summer camp shenanigans. And one of those things is going to Uncle Ron's cabin on the Grabbleton Beach property and getting drunk in Ronstown with Uncle Ron, and he's like the groundskeeper of Grabbleton's Beach. It's like I guess a forest style summer camp that would have like a lake and, you know, that kind of thing. He
would be the perfect groundskeeper, like especially when he was in his big old beard days,
big old beard stages.
Yeah. Wow.
So there's that like a scene where they like go get drunk. So there's a girl who's like new to camp for the first time. That's basically the thing, is like she falls in love with the most popular boy, and that's Mullet Millennium. And can't you just imagine the Mullet Millennium number where there's like, he drives up in his car, like the car comes on stage and he gets out and he shuts the door and he's like, it's a guy in like acid wash jeans. It's basically Billy from Stranger Things.
I was going to say that.
It's like an acid wash jeans, like dancing on top of the car. And he's like, Mullet Millennium. And all the summer camp teams are like 1983. There's so like she gets like whisked away. What?
How can we pitch this to Broadway?
I know, right? The off-Broadway Downtown Brown musical is something I think about all the time. These scenes play in my head on a regular fucking basis. So we're following the girl and she like falls in love with or has like a crush on the main boy, and it's like a trick where he tries to get her drunk at the party and then he lies about having had sex with her. It's like one of those kind of like dumb teen romance plots to sort of like keep the party going. I remember there being a character called Supermodel Becky that doesn't have a single line. She's just extremely smoking hot. The Grabbleton's Beach reprise where it's sad is where the girl who like, she thinks the boy lied about her. It's like before he apologizes and she's just like walking out on the lake and she's like, let's take a trip, you know, like thinking about all their memories together.
Oh yeah.
There's a best friend character and he sings the Friend Zone song. I remember there's like a best friend character who she thinks is gay, who's not gay. Or something like that. Again, this was like 2011 when we were making this. So like it was that sort of, that was the Grabbletons. And like at the end she gets redeemed, the boy gets redeemed and apologizes and it's like Grease, you know, like, and there's the big Grabbleton's Beach reprise and, you know, like you do, like the musical do. If I listen to the album all the way through again, I could probably tell you some more of the numbers, because I think it included like 12 or 13 songs that were mostly on that record, and then a couple of the ones that I knew from your shows.
Yeah. There's definitely, you know what's funny is the guy who mastered that record said, hey, this could be some sort of weird Broadway thing. That was his comment after he mastered the record. And so I think it's funny that you kind of had a similar thought pattern to it, you know?
Yeah, but I didn't want to let this podcast go by without me telling you as much as I could remember about Grabbleton's Beach, the musical, the unofficial official Downtown Brown.
And that's the thing too. Like in a world where we could have potentially found more mainstream success, that is something that I would dump all of my savings into. Would be doing some sort of like big. You know, I mean, look at the guys in South Park and Book of Mormon. Like,
100%. That's the dream. The dream is to make a crazy stage play musical, whatever, like jukebox musical. That is, or what, even just a musical, just to write a musical. I've started so many musicals, but it's 10 now. I've kept you up so late. You get up at 5. I'm not going to keep you up any longer.
Yeah, I'm on this weird sleep schedule. I get up at like 5 a.m. and I go to bed like right around now. But
I'm not going to keep you up any later. You need to go watch things with your girlfriend and let the hamster wheel run. Yes. But it's been really great talking to you, Neil.
Oh, I feel good about this. This makes me excited to get back into making content and having conversations with people. And I felt like we just hung out for like 2.5 hours. So it's been a pleasure catching up and Fuck. Yeah, I'm kind of like puttering out here.
I'll see you on the other side of the net wave in the hack space.
Yes, and take care.
In 2021.
Yeah, I'll see you in Cyberpunk 2021 in the ether.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Take care of yourself and just take things slow. Just take things slow. It's you have the whole rest of your life to figure this shit out.
I'm doing the best I can.
You got this. I believe in you.
Thanks.
I believe in you. Are you gonna hit the Zoom button? Should I hit the Zoom button?
I'll hit the Zoom button. Bye.
Okay, bye. Nice talking. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.